It was a late night. Outside the bedroom, a pair of bloodshot eyes looked attentively through a slightly open door. Mr. Thomas was totally focused on his son and daughter-in-law. It had been a week since he relocated from the countryside to Hanoi to live with the couple, as instructed by his son. He hadn't slept all night since. Every night the symphony of love played endlessly, leaving him breathless. When he first saw his daughter-in-law in such an exposed position, he felt as if a long-held yearning had finally been fulfilled. Their bed was near the entrance, so he could enjoy the display while soaking in the dreamy light of the night lamp. Her figure was as white and elegant as a marble statue with long, delicate legs. Mr. Thomas finally opened his eyes the following morning when early sunshine filtered through the window. He glanced at the clock. It was already 9 a.m. After freshening himself, he emerged from his room to find Sophie bustling in the kitchen. Her long, gorgeous legs made him nervous. Sophie turned around and greeted him, surprising him. "Good morning, father. Are you already awake?" She smiled at him. She was as gorgeous as an angel. Her lovely, attractive face forced him to hesitate for a few seconds before he recovered himself. "Yes, I'm up. Has David gone to work?" He questioned, hoping to shift the topic to hide his embarrassment. "No, he is still asleep. He has a day off today," she said. "Go freshen up, Dad. I will wake him up for breakfast." Mr. Thomas went to the restroom. Meanwhile, Sophie went upstairs to rouse her husband, but he wanted to sleep in and did not awaken. She returned to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Sophie could easily hear the water coming from the shower since the downstairs bathroom was open and near to the kitchen. Despite her best attempts to focus on setting the table, the sound of running water sent her pulse racing. She had opened the door to her father-in-law's room earlier that morning to rouse him up, something she had never done before, since he seldom awoke early. As soon as she opened the door, she had to cover her mouth to avoid gasping. Her father-in-law was lying down comfortably, his blanket put aside, and his riches on show. Sophie was mesmerized. Her attention stayed fixated on the firm asset, and she tiptoed closer. My God, she wondered, why is it like this? Without even a semblance of self-control, she may have surrendered to her female instincts. Even when the sound of water from the toilet had subsided, he had not yet emerged. Sophie moved closer to the toilet, intrigued and apprehensive. Strangely, Mr. Thomas had not completely closed the bathroom door. The metal door was ajar, revealing a narrow area. Sophie's pulse as she gazed through it, apparently fascinated. Inside, Mr. Thomas was still adjusting himself. Despite being past 50, his physique was very strong and robust, standing over 8 meters tall and exuding charm. David may have inherited his father's good looks, but what really drew Sophie in was, well, you now know. What a pity that once his wife died, he likely kept this unused for decades. What a waste. David's sense of humor and wit added to the enjoyment of breakfast that morning. Sophie gazed at the two guys drinking beer together, but her thoughts returned to the sight she had seen earlier. The remembrance caused her body to warm up with worry. While she was immersed in thought, Mr. Thomas abruptly piped up, "David, you are not growing any younger. You too should consider giving me a grandchild soon. I'm already elderly, and I wouldn't want to die without seeing my grandson's face." "Yes, we want it too, Dad," David answered, "but we'll wait till our finances are more secure." "You're still young and strong, Dad," he remarked with a laugh. "You say that, yet your mother died over a decade ago. I am not getting any younger. You waited till you were past 30 to marry. If you don't hurry up, how will I confront your mother in the afterlife?" He turned to Sophie. "Hey, if you won't give me a grandchild, locate a baby for me to nurture. I don't care whose kid it is." "Are you serious, father?" Sophie smiled as she replied, "I have to go to Saigon for a week for work. Because I'm so gorgeous, you should keep a tight check on your daughter-in-law, or you'll wind up babysitting someone else's kid. I would babysit anyone's kid as long as it came from my pond." Mr. Thomas said, "I'll love it regardless," which made all three of them chuckle. Sophie got up to tidy up after the tiny supper, and David excused himself to go out. Sophie started sweeping the floor when she finished cleaning the dishes, while Mr. Thomas sat nearby, pretending to read the news on his iPad and drinking his morning coffee. But the words spun around the screen as his gaze was pulled to his daughter-in-law's movement across the floor. He quickly turned his iPad to camera mode and captured her. He had never seen a more attractive lady in his life. His kid was very lucky. He must have accomplished something exceptional in a former life to marry such a lady. He hastily pressed the stop button and raced to his room, fearful that he might lose control and make a fatal error. Mr. Thomas shut the door behind him with a loud click. Sophie grinned, having caught his slipping gaze. She taunted him further as he continued to gaze. Her flirtatious nature was natural. She's always enjoyed the thrill of conquering. Poor father-in-law, she reasoned. He'd been alone since his wife died, and it seemed a shame to leave a body and assets like that unused for over 10 years. Sophie's presence reawakened something within of him. Inside his room, Mr. Thomas got out his phone and replayed the wonderful video he had just created. He rested, had a break, and walked back outdoors. However, Sophie was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps she had gone out. He groaned and ascended to the roof to get some fresh air. As he reached the second story, he saw the door to his son's bedroom open and the sound of running water from the bathroom. His heart skipped a beat. Sophie seemed to have gone upstairs to take a shower after cleaning. Standing in front of the door, his heart raced. Mr. Thomas thought for a long time before choosing to walk inside. He crept in quietly like a thief. He paused halfway into the room, shook his head, and began to walk away. But instinct took control. Mr. Thomas almost passed out as he carefully pulled the door open. Reasoning Sophie had not secured the door, as he had anticipated, supposing it was a remote place and her father-in-law would be sleeping below. Despite his mental preparation, he was taken aback by the scene in front of him. He turned to go but could not move. His legs felt weighted down by stones. He wanted to run in, but he didn't have the nerve. His family would be crushed. His pride would be crushed before his son's eyes. Sophie walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel. As she turned around, her foot slipped, and she would have fallen if she hadn't grasped the door to hold herself steady. While recovering her composure, she saw someone gazing at her. Her heartbeat skipped. Her husband had gone out, leaving only her and her father-in-law at home. She reddened with embarrassment. Sophie asked for permission to depart that afternoon, hoping to avoid her father-in-law. She went to meet her old friend Linda. Linda's parents had acquired a gorgeous lakeside cottage for her, which was just a 15-minute taxi ride away. Sophie let herself in as she normally does. Linda seldom shut the door unless it was nighttime or she was gone. Sophie carefully closed the door behind her and stepped inside. However, the home was strangely quiet. Linda was nowhere to be found. Sophie believed that she was still asleep. She won't be working today since it's Sunday. She climbed the stairs to the second floor to wake up her buddy for coffee. But as she approached, she began to hear weird but hauntingly familiar noises. Her cheeks flushed. She wanted to turn back, but curiosity pushed her on. "Alex, I am ecstatic," a female voice moaned. "Me too, sis. I'm delighted," came the reply. Sophie froze. "Wait, Linda is with someone. Did she call him M? That's not her boyfriend." Her heart raced. She learned her friend was having an affair with someone much younger. Her cheeks became red as delight and wonder overwhelmed her. She backed away and headed downstairs, pausing to calm her racing heart. After 5 minutes, she fetched orange juice and sat by the lake waiting for her friend. Then she cautiously called. Linda picked up the phone after 3 rings. "Hello, what's up?" she said, sounding out of breath. "You sound like you have been working out." "No, I'm just doing some workout. Come down to the lake cafe. I am outside your home." Sophie said, "Okay, give me 5 minutes." Linda stated. Linda appeared 10 minutes later, sprinting towards the cafe where Sophie was seated, staring out over the lake. "Did I keep you waiting too long?" she questioned. You said 5 minutes. It's been 30. "What did you do in there?" Sophie asked, angry. Linda laughed as she ordered a drink and took a seat beside her. "So what brought you here so quickly that you didn't even text ahead?" Sophie grinned and said, "Can't I just miss my best friend and want to chat?" Linda was not persuaded, however. "Come on, I can see right through you. There's something going on, spill it. There's something." Sophie admitted, her voice softening. "I knew it." Linda leaned closer. "What occurred next?" "Are you and your husband having problems?" "David and I are well. The problem is with my father-in-law, your father-in-law." Linda's eyes widened and her heart beat. "Wait, don't tell me you two." "No, God," Sophie snapped, blushing. "Nothing occurred. Recently he has been behaving suspiciously. He looks at me differently. And I caught him." Sophie trailed off her words, barely audible. Her cheeks reddened from shame. Linda gazed at her for a long time before laughing, drawing the attention of others close. Sophie got agitated. "What makes you laugh, devil?" Linda gasped as she laughed. "You're blushing like a teenager. I think your expression tells everything." Sophie said, "There's nothing funny about this." "Look," Linda said, finally calming down. "Your father-in-law is above 50, right? She had been widowed for over a decade and was still healthy and well-fed when she died unexpectedly. A young, attractive daughter-in-law like you is seen strolling about in minimal attire. How can you expect him not to get aroused?" "Do you think it is normal?" Sophie asked timidly. "Absolutely, but most importantly, do not lie to me." "Deep down, you're not just uncomfortable, but also fascinated, maybe even eager." Sophie's eyes widened. She gazed at her friend, surprised by Linda's ability to understand her unspoken emotions. Linda sipped her drink and mumbled, "Don't look at me like that. You had a secluded existence. You only ever knew one man, your spouse. That explains why you're feeling odd about this." "Do you believe everyone feels this way?" Sophie inquired, her voice trembling. "I think most people do." "Allow me to ask you something. If you discovered David cheated on you, would you forgive him?" "Maybe," Sophie confessed after a long pause. Linda responded, nodding firmly. "Many couples end their relationship not because they no longer love each other, but because they are unable to grasp one another's secret wishes. They may still love their spouse truly." She replied, "But within there's a burning, a longing they're too ashamed to admit. Rather of talking about it, they sneak about. When the truth is revealed, they are unable to forgive, and everything falls apart. If they open up, communicate, and understand one another better, their marriage may be the happiest ever, since their sex life will be exciting and meaningful." Sophie listened silently, shocked by how blatant and strangely reasonable everything seemed. "I mean, Linda said that you've only ever known David, but let's be honest, he's no newbie in bed. He's in his 40s and clearly seasoned. You knew when he touched you." Sophie reddened again, but did not interfere. "Aren't you concerned about his past?" Linda inquired. "No, everyone has a past. What matters is the now." Sophie remarked, "He loves me now." "Yes, and he is excellent at what he does. Every night he makes you melt, right?" Linda leaned forward and dropped her voice. "Despite this, you still feel something is lacking, don't you?" Sophie gazed at her buddy, astounded. It was as if Linda could read her soul. "Don't worry," Linda said sweetly. "You aren't strange. You are just now discovering elements of yourself that you have never explored." "Do you believe that's why I responded the way I did to my father-in-law?" Sophie inquired, her voice barely above a whisper. Linda said, "I do. You didn't just feel uncomfortable. Don't deny it. You were tempted." Sophie looked down at her cup, quietly processing the weight of Linda's words. Sophie took another sip of her drink and gently questioned, "So, what will I do?" Linda did not answer right immediately. She cocked her head and grinned mischievously. "Honestly, I think you already know. You're just frightened to acknowledge it." Just then the door behind them opened. A young guy went out into the yard barefoot with messy hair and still wearing a loose t-shirt and shorts. Sophie automatically turned to see. Linda, catching her breath, addressed to him as M. She recognized the kid she had heard above. "Linda, is this your cousin?" Sophie asked gently. Linda said, "Yep," without any embarrassment. "He's living with me while he studies, which is sweet." Sophie didn't respond, instead, looking at the boy, who offered a polite nod and smile. "Hello, Chi," he murmured quietly. "Will you stay for lunch? I can cook something." "Oh no, I was only visiting," Sophie said, shocked. The youngster smiled again before disappearing inside the home. Linda moved closer as Sophie stood up to go. She muttered, "Do you see how desire can take many forms? It's not all about love. It may also be about discovery." Sophie was unsure how to respond. She felt warm, confused, thrilled, and scared. "I have to go," she said. "David is flying early tomorrow. I'm going to help him pack." "Of course," Linda said with a cheeky grin. "Remember what I said. It's all right to want more if you're honest with yourself." Sophie hurried down the stairs, her heart racing. Linda returned to the home where her cousin was still in the kitchen. She gave him a sneaky grin and wink. Sophie had no clue. They'd planned everything. How about the boy? He had almost succeeded in tempting her. Almost the whole evening supper was peaceful and unremarkable. Mr. Thomas pretended nothing had occurred, which helped Sophie feel less apprehensive. Sophie and David went up to their room at 8 p.m., after completing their dinner and cleaning up. Knowing he had to depart early the following morning, David did not waste time. They made love fast and violently, but Sophie moaned silently afterward. She could not stop thinking about her time at Linda's. She felt strangely restless. "Hey," she mumbled, turning to face David. "Your mother left a long time ago. Your father was still very young at the time. Why haven't you urged him to remarry?" There was no reaction. She rolled over and saw that he was already sound asleep, snoring lightly. She thought cruelly he can't even remain awake after sex. Sophie, furious, turned off the light and tried to sleep, but her mind was racing with unresolved questions, unmet demands, and indeterminate bounds. She had not ventured to cross yet. At 5 a.m., David awakened to prepare for his trip. He walked downstairs and saw his father already awake. "Why are you awake this early, Dad? I couldn't sleep. I felt hot and restless. I thought I'd take a shower. Do you remember that I am flying today?" "Yeah, my memory isn't as good as it once was." "Well, I'll be gone for a week. Take good care of yourself and keep an eye on Sophie for me. She is too gorgeous for her own good. I don't want any males to hit on her." "Don't worry," added Mr. Thomas, grinning. "I will keep her secure." David stepped outside holding his bag. A vehicle drove up and the driver placed his items into the trunk. Mr. Thomas stood there watching the gate as it slid softly shut. He then spotted something. A little keychain had been slipped under the living room table. David's extra keyring held the key to the bedroom. A glint of temptation emerged in his eyes. He softly and discreetly hoisted it up and climbed the stairs. Mr. Thomas approached the bedroom door and tried one key after another until the third one worked. The lock disengaged with a faint cold sound like to a cat. He gently turned the door and slid inside. The soft glow of the night lamp provided a faint light across the room. Sophie was still peacefully asleep in bed. Her breathing was heavy and regular, and her body rose and fell under the thin sheet that barely covered her. Mr. Thomas remained frozen, watching her caught between remorse and desire. He moved closer. Sophie instantly changed. Is it still early?" she murmured sleepily and terrified. He dropped to the floor alongside the bed, hidden from her view, but she remained asleep. She was still sleeping and breathing softly. She grimaced slightly. Something didn't feel right. His smell is different today. Her eyes widened, but before she could respond, Mr. Thomas had taken the chance. He couldn't handle it anymore. Instinct had triumphed logic. What followed was a whirlpool of emotion, vulnerability, and buried longing. Sophie, caught between doubt and the echo of her own desires, paused just long enough to cross the line. Later, tears streamed down her cheeks. She wrapped herself in a robe and discreetly entered the bathroom. At 8 a.m., David landed at Tan Son Nhat Airport in Saigon. The June light beamed through the windows, and he squinted as he entered a cab. Sophie stayed in her room, her mind burdened and her heart broken. How about Mr. Thomas? He sat alone in the living room, looking at nothing. The suitcase he had packed was unopened. The breadth of his accomplishments was astonishing. The moment of longing was past, leaving only humiliation. Mr. Thomas had not moved in over an hour. He sat quietly, his gaze concentrated on the luggage in front of him. Sophie hadn't come downstairs yet, and he was concerned about what she may be thinking or worse doing. What have I done? He had an idea. I've ruined everything. I tricked my son. I've harmed her. He clenched his fists. You are a monster, he told himself. You don't deserve to be in this home. His chest tightened with remorse and humiliation. He needed to depart, but first he had to apologize. Not to clear his guilt, but because she deserved it. He ascended the stairs, his legs shaking. Sophie was still laying on the bed when he walked in, clothed, but unmoving. Her chest rose and sank gently, but her eyes stayed open. She'd stayed up the whole time. I know you're not asleep, he said quietly. I simply need to say something. He sat on the edge of the bed, his voice shaking. I'm really sorry, Sophie. I did something unforgivable. I don't expect you to forgive me. I only needed you to hear it. I'll be leaving the home when David returns. Tell him how much I miss being home. Please tell him anything except the truth. Sophie didn't move. I do not deserve to see either of you again, but I wish you both genuine happiness. He stood to go, but her voice stopped him, quiet, chilly, and steady. I do not want your apologies. She said, I want you to take responsibility. He whirled around in disbelief. What do you mean? She cautiously got off the bed, came up to him, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her lips brushed gently across his. He drew backward, astonished. "Sophie, what are you doing?" "I told you," she muttered. "You cannot walk away. You're going to take responsibility." And in that hushed room, the storm that had been building for days finally erupted. The cab stopped in front of a lovely villa on the outskirts of Saigon. David went outside, his pulse beating as memories of the scene surfaced. This home had many memories of his past. He paused for a long, taking everything in before ringing the bell. Moments thereafter, a lady emerged. Nina, his cousin, is lovely and stunning. She looks stylish and lovely, clothed in a fitted turtleneck top and knee-length skirt. "Oh, David, that is truly you. When did you arrive? Why didn't you call ahead?" "Sorry, Chi. I was on a business trip and intended to remain here for a week. You are too nice. This is also your home. You may remain for as long as you like." She spoke warmly. "Come in." "I was planning to go shopping." David followed her inside, pulling his bag with him. "You are married now, correct?" she said as they entered. "I am so sorry that I was unable to attend the wedding. Kwainon is studying overseas, right?" "Yes," he answered, smiling. "Thanks, Chi. Business has been terrific. I've seen your wife on Facebook. She's gorgeous." "You're fortunate. Not as fortunate as your spouse," David said with a sardonic grin. "You are still beautiful, Chi. You don't look a day over 30. "Oh, please," she replied, giggling. "Things are not as cheery as they once were. Besides, my husband went for a 2-week vacation overseas yesterday." David's eyes lit up slightly. He moved closer and held her lightly from behind. "So the home is all ours, correct?" he whispered. "I have missed you." "Hey," she gasped. "Be careful, my daughter is upstairs." He loosened his hold, shocked. "Sorry, I didn't know," Nina giggled. "Don't worry." She went out with several buddies. She won't return till tonight. They locked eyes and old feelings arose. They didn't need to say anything more. Desire reigned supreme in that tranquil, bright dwelling, away from home and consequences. Around 10:30 a.m., Mr. Thomas remained still in the living room, his attention fixed on the baggage. Sophie hadn't come downstairs. Has she changed her mind? Was she regretting what had happened? God, he thought. What type of guy am I? I've defiled her. I betrayed my own son. What do I do now? He concealed his face in his hands. You don't deserve to live in this home. You don't deserve forgiveness. His chest ached with guilt. The pleasure of the night before had faded, leaving only embarrassment and worry. Sophie remained immobile in bed. She was not tired, but she did not want to move. The guilt was dense and crushing. She was not innocent in this circumstance. She had participated along. Worse, she wanted it. I am no better than him, she reasoned. What have I become? Mr. Thomas got up and brought his bag to the door. But before he could get there, a voice rang out. Dad, please wait. He froze. I turned around. Sophie stood a few meters behind him, her eyes red and swollen with unshed tears. Are you simply about to leave? What occurred after that? Mr. Thomas said nothing. He couldn't meet her eyes. What should I tell David when he comes back that you departed because you missed your home? That is untrue. Everything will be a lie. Her voice cracked. You did this to me and to us, and now you want to walk away as if nothing happened. Finally, he glanced at her. His heart broke. Sophie, I apologize. I really am. I don't want your apologies, she said, leaning closer. I want you to take responsibility. What do you mean? He inquired, puzzled. She did not answer in words. She stepped into his arms, lifted her chin, and kissed him softly and carefully. His eyes widened. Sophie, what are you doing? I told you, she muttered. You are going to accept full responsibility. What followed was a chaotic, frantic tangle of grief, capitulation, desire, and retribution. Their bodies clashed again, this time not out of desire, but due to a distorted sense of consequence. For over 2 hours, they lost themselves in one another, knowing the harm was irreversible. A week later, the taxi came at the same address, but this time with David, who had returned from a business trip. He went outdoors, bags in hand, and looked up at the peaceful villa. Although everything looked to be the same, something felt off. The first thing he noticed upon arriving was the silence. Dad, he called Sophie. No one replied. He wheeled his luggage inside and saw Sophie in the kitchen. She turned to grin, but her eyes were tired and almost dead. Welcome home, she said gently. Where is Dad? He departed the day after you, she explained hurriedly, saying he missed home and wanted to return to the countryside. Huh, David scowled. He said nothing to me. That is unusual. He told me to inform you he departed quickly. She stated this without meeting his gaze. David approached, put down his bag, and hugged her from behind. I missed you, he murmured. Sophie leaned toward him instinctively. I missed you too. But inwardly her heart was torn. Guilt, longing, and regret. Everything came together like a never-ending storm. She looked at the picture of the three of them on the wall, her David and Mr. Thomas, and thought, can I ever forget? Can I ever go back to who I was? David kissed her neck unknowingly. He had no notion that the life he thought he had returned to would alter forever.